I'm Gene Deitch, and you certainly have to admire my marvelous old man makeup. But this is the way I think I look, as long as I avoid looking in any mirrors. This photo is the way I looked when I first made up the character now known as NUDNIK. I've tried many things in my 65-year career in animation. Among the hundreds of animated short films I've done, I made a pretty good living. I've managed a few individual good films, won an Oscar, several nominations, plus plenty of prizes for my Western Woods children's films. But it wasn't all roses. My problem is that I tried so many things during the long years when digital just meant fingers. I somehow managed to make cartoon films basically using 1914 technology. Raoul Barre's peg holes, John Bray's transparent cells. That basic method just came in 10 years before I was born. Most of my career was long before computer technology, cell phones, or the ultimate intellectual resources of Facebook or Twitter. Good encyclopedias could barely be lifted. Cell levels and scratch negatives were realities we had to live with. And monster Oxbury camera rigs were our major tech marvels. The technology we dealt with was inscribed on paper, exposure sheets. The upside of all this was that Coca-Cola cost only a nickel, and we did not expect that our cartoons had to mimic photoreality. Our major challenges during those lost times were, 1, to be regularly employed, and to be paid enough to eat and live decently, 2, to make films that didn't embarrass us, but did satisfy our bosses, and 3, to earnestly try to achieve something noteworthy that might bring us fame and fortune. I was lucky enough to achieve some of those things, to mask over the greater number of attempts that flopped. My main pride was that I always worked very hard, and I strived to innovate within the limitations. I found that innovation always tempts failure and often achieves failure. But that was reckless. I was reckless in that regard, and I have the scars to prove it. I stubbornly believed that my failures did not deserve to fail. In fact, I learned the most from my flops. I always was convinced that whatever I was dreaming up at the time would rule the world of animation. I invented a slew of ad hoc camera effects, never dreaming that something called computer technology would blow everything I figured out how to do away. I got used to older guys telling me that what I was trying simply wouldn't work. Bucking the system at least gave me the satisfaction that I gave it my best shot. I excelled as a striver. Trying to make a living in animation, I rarely could afford the luxury of making so-called experimental films, hoping to win prizes at festivals. Instead, I experimented on whatever sponsored films I got, and I often got away with it. At least I did the best I could with whatever I was handed, including things I felt no kinship with, such as Tom and Jerry. But even there, I took it as a challenge, and I tried to find a fresh way to handle that devilishly destructive cat-mouse duo. Out of the blue, in 1956, the mighty CBS television came to where I was working and offered me a blank CinemaScope screen to play nice with. They recklessly appointed me as creative director of their newly acquired, creatively threadbare Terrytoons cartoon studio. I suddenly had the rare opportunity to reach out in entirely new directions, and I produced one rule-breaking flop after another. In the wild ride of creation, only one of those attempts, Tom Terrific, struck gold with the public and entered the language and animation history. Most of the others for 20th Century Fox did make animation history and won prizes and then boosted my name, but they all lost money and I was kicked out of Terrytoons. I still believe that some of my new characters, perhaps Sydney, the neurotic elephant, and the obsessively dedicated apartment house janitor Clint Clobber, could have been contenders. But movie theater cartoon characters usually they took ages to become celebrities. Compare the first Bugs Bunny cartoon to Chuck Jones' later masterpiece, What's Opera, Doc? How many years of work were in between? One of my nascent Terrytoons characters, Foofle, coming out of the silent movie clown concept, seemed to have long-range possibilities, but it emerged at the end of my Terrytoons time and never got its legs. Still, the hapless clown concept bugged me all the way into my early years in Prague. So when Paramount offered me a series if I could come up with a winning character, there was no way I could conjure up a classic out of thin air. My only immediate hope was to reinvent Foofle. I went at it happy as a baby boy with a brand new choo-choo toy, step by step morphing Foofle into NUDNIK. Amazingly, our pilot film, Here's NUDNIK, Creating Chaos in a Cruddy Kitchen, really did get nominated for an Oscar, and the series was ours. Doing the NUDNIK films gave me the most satisfaction of nearly anything I've done. I had a ball thinking up silent movie gags, keeping NUDNIK constantly close to Wipeout. I was proud of the visual jokes I was thinking up, or stealing, or adapting from Buster Keaton and others, but all the while I was getting to love NUDNIK. I completely missed checking out his name. As a boy, I remembered my Jewish grandmother referring to people she was criticizing. "He's such a nudnik," she would say. I had no idea what it meant, but it sounded funny, and I figured it was a name for an incompetent. It was still early days in Prague for me. I was trying to cope with the Czech language. Many Czech words seemed right out of the comics, especially some words ending in "nik." About that time, the space capsule named Sputnik had been launched, and I learned that it meant traveler in Russian, which is a related language to Czech. So I started to learn many Czech words with the same "nik" ending, which at the time all seemed really funny to me. Chodnik meant sidewalk, Deník made a daily newspaper, Parník was a steamboat, Ručník was a hand towel, Blotník an automobile fender, Čajník a teapot, and so on. Such words seemed hilarious to me. I didn't yet get it that Czech words are no crazier than plenty of English words. Anyway, all of this seemed to make NUDNIK a funny and apt name for a hapless cartoon character. Imagine my shock after the first NUDNIK film got an Oscar nomination, and when I was told that the Yiddish word nudnik meant a boar. A boar! Why wasn't I told about this months ago while I was still in production? The American movie industry was supposed to be dominated by Jews, but no one at Paramount ever mentioned that we were producing comedy cartoons starring a boar. When you read my new book, NUDNIK Revealed, you'll see how I wriggled out of this faux pas. Whatever. NUDNIK he still is, and he has never been called boring. Look at the NUDNIK films in their 40-year-old context. I hope you'll not find them boring. It's the reason that I'm at Comic-Con. I'm presenting 2 brand new books and a DVD literally hot off the Fantagraphics and Rembrandt Films ovens. We only have a limited number of advanced copies in from China. Fantagraphics explained to me that paper was invented in China, so that's understandable. Anyway, it's what was finally printed on the paper that I hope will greatly interest you. The Cat on a Hot Thin Groove is an updated, expanded, and cheaper edition of my cartoons and graphics from the era of hot jazz record collecting. But NUDNIK Revealed is a brand new collection of my personal, never-before-published NUDNIK character study drawings, gag idea sketches, and several of my complete storyboards for the original Paramount NUDNIK shorts. With the book and the DVD together, you'll see the detailed relationship between the storyboards and the finished films. The book is filled out with the first complete revelation of how and why NUDNIK came to be, and why NUDNIK matters in animation history, I think. It's a revealing story of how things worked in the animation world of that period, showing you the inside story of how an offbeat movie cartoon character was created and developed. As I was laying out all of the long hidden graphic material for the book, I was asking myself, what's the point of putting out all this stuff in a book if readers can't see the films the book is showing and telling about? So Rembrandt Films, the original producers of the NUDNIK movie shorts, agreed to restore every single NUDNIK film, frame by frame, and put them all onto a comprehensive single-disc DVD album, brilliantly constructed by Patricia Snyder, and including my comments revealing the hidden secrets of the productions. So, we believe we have a revealing 1-2 punch of animation history here, showing and telling you the inside story of NUDNIK in a beautifully printed full-color illustrated book, full of all of the key production artwork, character development, model sheets, gag sketches, color storyboards, layouts, and finished camera setups. All my personal production material had been stored unseen in my private studio. Only the Prague animators and production staff ever saw any of it, and since then it was locked away in the dark. NUDNIK has not been seen in theaters since their original Paramount release, which ended when all cartoon shorts in movie theaters were dropped. Even though NUDNIK had proven to be Oscar material, and movie theater reaction had been really tremendous, he was nipped in the bud. Chuck Jones, for example, had written me at the time that he thought NUDNIK was a winner. And so had one of the hottest, hustling salespersons of TV syndication, Jane Smith of Sunbow Entertainment. She took up the challenge and proclaimed NUDNIK mania was at hand. She set up a really winning promotional plan. But then it turned out that she was so hot that she got an offer she couldn't refuse and was whisked off to a higher-paying job, leaving the stillborn NUDNIK twisting in the wind. Without her personal enthusiasm, NUDNIK faded out and went from syndication to hibernation. In spite of all the NUDNIK enthusiasm in the animation festival community, pantomime comedies were just too expensive to produce for the television market of the time. Any of you in animation work know that the Hanna-Barbera TV formula of bare-bones animation, static figures with wagging mouths speaking smart-alecky dialogue, were the cheapest way to go. But NUDNIK films had no dialogue. Pantomime humor requires real animation, and lots of it, so NUDNIK was priced out of the 1960s TV market. So now we have the whole Megillah, the book and the video, and it's all been done under my personal control, so you have a chance to see here at Comic-Con right now to get what is essentially the first really comprehensive NUDNIK saga, complete and all at once. I'll be happy to sign any books that you buy. Just look at me and you'll understand the urgency. What I hope to do with all this is to give you an inside view of the inspirations, the thoughts, the ideas, and the work that goes into the creation of a movie cartoon character. The NUDNIK story, with its heady highs and sighing lows, is a reality show for all animators. Thanks for listening to all this stuff. And as NUDNIK would say,